This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. And look at the wonderful faces that I've got to help me talk a little geek news tonight. Welcome, everybody, to Scarif Live. David, Ambrose, Michael, the gang at Geek News Now. What is up, everybody?
Same old stuff. It's a good day. It's a good weekend.
It's a good week to be a nerd. All right.
My,
Excellent.
my wife took me to the Barbie movie and I survived, so I've got that going for me.
I heard that I heard if you're a man that you have to go drunk. Is that true? Were you a little inebriated when you went to go see Barbie, or?
Unfortunately not. But I mean, at least Amy Schumer, dropped out of the project, because that probably would have been the tipping point for me.
I wouldn't have gone and seen it.
I would have taken a nap. I would have been like, you can make me pay to see this movie, but I will be sleeping.
That's too funny. How was everybody's weekend so far? It is Saturday. Happy Barbenheimer weekend. Or is that what is that? Open Barbie or Barbenheimer, I guess.
I think it's
Uppany.
I think it's Barbenheimer. And it's a really weird weekend in film, because there's a lot of people doing that. We have two guys at Geek News Now who just did that.
Yeah.
It's almost like one of those viral challenges.
So here's the cool thing that I think these two movies are probably two films that maybe the movie theater industry have been waiting for a really long time. I think obviously the draw of Oppenheimer has generated a lot of buzz, and then Barbie, obviously a fan favorite for our fans of Barbie, I guess. But it's really cool to see everybody in the theater, everybody dressing up for both movies, and theater hopping. I think that's kind of cool.
And in all seriousness, I like the Barbie movie for a couple reasons. One, I'm a sucker for good satire. It was really good. It was really good in the satire department. And two, it sent a really strong feminist message. It was, that's what the movie was there for, and that's what the writers wanted to do. Sure. And I'm fine with that. And I'm happy that they did it with a property that calls for it. And I hope they do more of that. And it's not like, they take over writing G.I. Joe.
Sure.
Or they take over writing Marvel. The property calls for it and it's making money, go for it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm pushing buttons, Ambrose. You kind of disappeared on me, but yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk a little new nerd news tonight, since I've got all of you guys here. But what?
Well, real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
My 2 cents on the whole Oppenheimer Barbie stuff. It reminds me so much of back in 2020 when Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing New Horizons dropped on the same day. And I really hope we get some funny Barbie Oppenheimer crossover memes. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think the internet is
Doomslayer and Isabel memes are great. So it's the same kind of vibe for me.
Barbie Land is the best site.
I haven't even been to see Indiana Jones. That's how far out I am. So
wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm a horrible person. I haven't had time.
To be fair, neither have I, but I live in the Bahamas and we don't have movie theaters here, so
living in the Bahamas, why would you even need a movie theater? Just
I know, right?
Chill.
Well, he clearly stole that hat from Sidney Ponson.
Nah, man. My whole family's O's fans, going back 3 generations.
Nice.
And we're on top of the world right now, so
let's say hi to the chat. What's up, chat? Who is in the chat? We've got Ubaldo. What's up, Skywalker's Academy? And Rural Farm Boy. Thank you, Anthony, for joining us. He posted a shot of his favorite hat and blaster a couple of minutes ago. Solo Girl. Hello, Solo Girl. Thank you very much. If you guys are in the chat and you want to win some swag, I made an announcement that I'm going to be giving away this Mandalorian Razor Crest model that you guys can build and paint. Maybe add some lights into it, make it cool, spray paint it silver, whatever you guys want. I have a question that I will be asking, and you have to answer it in order to be eligible to win this Razor Crest model later on in the broadcast. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The only thing is that you guys have to call the Scarif Scuttlebutt hotline. Jot down this number. I'm going to put it in the chat. Hold on a second.
Also, I love how you said "make it cool" as if implying it wasn't already like super cool.
Make it cool. So here is the phone number to the Scarif Scuttlebutt hotline, 773-234-8659. Later on, we will go ahead and ask the question, and I will pick a random answer. Whoever gets it correct, it's a two-part question. So hopefully you get your nerd geek going, your trivia brain going, and call in, leave a message, and let us know. I'll also probably maybe just use some of those messages on an upcoming show, but also keep that number handy. Put it in your Rolodex if you still have one of those things, and make sure that you use it often, and call us, leave us a message, tell us how we're doing here at the Scarif Podcast, or just call and say hello there. Excellent. All right, Phil is in the chat. Phil, thank you very much for coming on by. All right, let's talk some nerd news. Who wants to start? Who's got a juicy topic?
I could start if you want.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So going into Star Wars, how about John Boyega being open to returning to the franchise?
Yeah, he's been open to return to the franchise for a while now, but will he have the opportunity to do so after the comment made about having The Last Jedi be the worst of the Star Wars sequel trilogy films?
Well, I mean,
let's see. It
was my question. I'll let everyone else go first.
I think honestly, I think if they don't bring him back, and I think a lot of people agree that he was really, his character was really kind of, he had a great character, and it was like they didn't do anything with it. It never went anywhere. They could have done so much with it. And now that we've got a new movie coming out with Rey post Rise of Skywalker, and she's starting her Jedi Academy, maybe he's open to that, because now they're going to expand on his character and make it something more that they can run with.
Possibly.
That's my thoughts anyway.
Sure. I think in a perfect world, once we get to that time frame, sure, it would make sense. Things can change between now and then, so who knows? Michael, what about you? What do you think?
I don't know, because I have very mixed feelings about the sequel trilogy anyway. And so the idea of continuing that story, while I'm not against it 100%, I feel like it would have to be done very tastefully,
sure.
In a sense, like they're going to have to take a lot more care going forward with that storyline, in my opinion anyway. I know a lot of people who absolutely loved the sequel trilogy and found absolutely no fault with it. I'm not one of those people. However, I do think that John Boyega's character could definitely use some more development, and it'd be nice to see that happen. Because I feel very much like Finn was robbed of a lot of character development.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to see him yell Rey some more in this movie.
Yeah, that was his whole character development, was screaming Rey. Like, pretty sure it was like 50% of his lines.
He's settled down with Rose Tico holding her purse while she goes into the store.
And we say that because of experience, right? We've all done that, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
No shame in it.
Yeah.
My opinion on the matter, unless you want to go, Ro, do you want to go first, or?
No, go for it.
Okay, I agree with Michael and David. I think he needs more character development. I think he was robbed of a lot. I think Disney did treat him bad, and he's one of the few actors to publicly criticize Disney and live to tell about it, let alone be invited back. So I think he'd be a good fit. I think he needs. I think he does. He was a popular character for what they did with him,
Sure.
and he's a popular guy. I don't take much stock in. I've been seeing on Twitter lately people talking about how he's selling out, he's abandoning his principles. Let me put that to rest here, because I grew up being a Yankees fan in the 80s. You know how many times Billy Martin was done with the Yankees? 5. Hired and fired 5 times. So, there's always a path back if you want it. And I just hope it does well for him. I hope they put a good product out.
Yeah, and we all have to remember that movie making is a business, so money talks, as they say. Phil's got an interesting comment here. I've been wanting Disney to do more stuff with the sequel trilogy characters, try to give people who are critical of the sequel trilogy a chance to respect them.
And then another thing on that note with the sequel trilogy. One of the movies has to be the worst. They can't all be number 1.
Right, based on what John Boyega said, and
2, Last Jedi is clearly the worst one.
For me, at least, it was. Yes.
The ending.
I agree with that.
The ending was a shot-for-shot ripoff of the ending from Escape from L.A. I mean,
David's shaking his head.
Yeah,
I couldn't disagree more. My thoughts on this is that we had The Force Awakens, and when The Force Awakens came out, everybody was like, yes, new Star Wars, this is exciting. And then they went to watch it, and then everybody was complaining, you just remade Episode 4. Why did you remake it? We want new Star Wars. Bring in Rian Johnson.
Was that complaint done during The Force Awakens? Because I remember that it was being posed a lot afterwards. So I don't think anybody was complaining that it was kind of a carbon copy of A New Hope until well into the release of The Last Jedi.
I would say into the release of Rogue One, which came next. But even still, they kept saying, we need something new. We want something new. We want new Star Wars. We don't want you to carbon copy Star Wars. Bring in Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson takes the Star Wars characters and storyline into a completely different direction. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, what did you do? You went off of Star Wars. You did. And it was like, that's exactly what you wanted them to do. And then, of course, The Rise of Skywalker was a complete just hodgepodge, because it was like, well, we don't know what to do now. We had a good story going through Last Jedi, and now we're just like, we can't seem to appease the fans one way or the other.
I think The Force Awakens, there was a lag on the disdain for it, because we were all just so happy to have a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And, you go into the theater and you're like, yes, I can't believe it. And, I don't care what anyone says. I'm not particularly a fan of the film. But that one scene where Han steps onto the Millennium Falcon and says, Chewie, we're home. It was like, yes,
chills.
I love this.
I remember getting chills in the theater when I saw that.
Even with the trailer, I think the trailer was viewed a boatload of times during San Diego Comic-Con that year, because that's where they dropped that trailer, and the Han Solo Chewie we're home was
like amazing, the end of the trailer. Yeah. In fact,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I can recall going, this was Black Friday 2014. So the day after Thanksgiving 2014, I took my son Luke out to a theater a good 45 minutes away from my house to go see Big Hero 6. And the only reason we were going to see Big Hero 6 at that particular theater was because that particular theater was chosen as one of the ones to show the teaser for The Force Awakens. And Big Hero 6 was like the only thing I was like, that's the only thing I kind of halfway want to watch it, but not really.
Sure.
So we went out there strictly to see the teaser trailer for The Force Awakens.
That's too funny. So, David, I just want to mention that you had mentioned Rian Johnson's name 4 times, so I got to take 4 shots.
Oh, go for it. I love Rian Johnson.
So for me,
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
actually I know a lot of people who were very critical, like you said, in later months and years and whatever, of The Force Awakens being a carbon copy of A New Hope. And while yeah, I see the similarities, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Um, there are definitely similar storytelling devices used. There are a lot of similarities between Rey and Luke, um, and what have you. But there's also a lot of differences as well.
Sure. Yeah.
And I actually really love The Force Awakens. Out of the whole trilogy, it's probably my favorite one because they set up all of these great things to happen. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of mystery on who Rey is and if she's related to anybody important. I remember all of the theories that came out that she was a Skywalker, she was a Kenobi,
Right.
and it was so much fun to speculate on. And then it's like, well, who is Snoke? Where did he come from? Is he Darth Plagueis? And
Right.
it's so much fun to think about that.
That was the big
actually-
one.
And then
There's actually an answer to that now.
Well, yeah, in the comic.
Well,
book.
yeah.
I mean, do you guys remember what the acronym for Snoke was?
I know in The Mandalorian, you see Snoke when he's
You
going
see
through a lab.
clone.
Yeah,
See the clone of Snoke.
failed Snoke clones or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who was he at the from the get go? Do you guys remember the acronym?
No.
I remember there was an acronym, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, and I think I don't know where that came from, but if it was a fan who thought of the acronym, kudos to that fan because at the time I think it made sense. It was the Sith no one knew existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think if they would have followed that thread, it would have been interesting to have introduced a character that was there all the time, just waiting for Palpatine to die or zone out and then take over from from him. But that
my
was not
thing-
the case.
My whole thing was when it got to The Last Jedi, I was really excited for it because the Force Awakens ends on such a cliffhanger with Rey finally finding Luke, and then it turned almost into a Tarantino film for me. Anyway, it was like you never know what's coming next. There's so many twists and just subplots on top of subplots on top of subplots, and there's so many things to try and keep track of. You're trying to keep track of Luke and Rey, and then you're trying to keep track of what Finn and Rose are doing, and then they introduced this new character who was I can't remember the character's name now for the life of me.
I don't want to interrupt. I got lost. Are you talking about The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, Last Jedi.
All right.
Because everybody kind of went off and did their own thing, and then they introduced oh god, I can't even remember the character's name now. He was the stuttering guy that was
DJ.
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah. They introduced him, and he's in everybody got really excited about it, and then he's in that one scene and pretty much never heard from again. At least not to my knowledge.
I think that Admiral, to jump off that because you're saying a lot of things I agree with, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think Akbar should have replaced Holdo, and Akbar should have been the one to go down.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That would have been. Have you seen the How It Should Have Ended video for that?
Yeah.
Does it end with Leia dying and not Mary Poppinsing back to the ship?
Yeah, but it's so great because it's in the How It Should Have Ended video. If you haven't seen it, it's Akbar calling General Hux like how Poe does at the beginning of the movie and starts trolling him. And it's Akbar, and he goes, "Do you know what this is? What are you talking? Do you know what this is? It's a trap!" And he just light speeds. So I'm like, I would have died. That whole theater would have just died laughing if they'd have done something like that. But then, it was just so many things happening at once.
I mean,
that's so hard to follow anything. And I just remember, I think my least favorite thing in the theater, on first watch, was Yoda. because it's like it's almost like they didn't want to do the puppet from the original trilogy, but they also didn't want to do the CGI from the prequel trilogy, so they tried to like merge them together, and it just was like, what is this?
It's a good thing they didn't do the puppet from the Phantom Menace.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember that they did that puppet for the Phantom Menace, and then they changed it to the CGI for the Blu-rays, and that was just that was awful.
The first re-edit or the first new appearance of Yoda from the prequels was so back in the day there was a Star Wars in Concert tour, and it came to Chicago, and actually the puppet was, so they were playing the Star Wars music, and then the puppet in the movie was changed to the CGI puppet even before the DVD releases that came before, because they were playing the music and the movie on a huge big screen during the tour. So for those of us who got to see Star Wars in Concert, we got to see a little re-edit of the Yoda puppet / CGI, which obviously was a big improvement. It's so interesting to me that as much fear as George Lucas and ILM had about bringing a little rubber puppet into the mix for The Empire Strikes Back, that puppet has not been matched in quality or believability, even with CGI for some reason. It's interesting.
No,
it really tells you how I don't know how much hard work the folks at ILM and just kind of the faith that George Lucas had in that character and in the artists behind the scenes. I think that's pretty commendable.
I think it's because you can appreciate the craftsmanship. I mean, I'm not saying that people that do CGI, that's still hard work, but it's it's polished, and you can tell when something's made by hand. That's why I fear that's why I fear a Gremlins 3 if they ever make it.
That you can tell when it's real. That's the thing.
Yeah.
For me, that is anyway, because 9 times out of 10,
tangible.
You can see it, and it's like you're looking at it, and you go, okay, I can see that 3D sculpt and the anime, and I get that it's computer animated and it looks really good, but when there's an actual physical puppet there, that was one of the things that they did with The Mandalorian that was so good, was that they were going to do Grogu as a CGI character. And they opted not to. That's a practical effect. So that's what makes it so much more believable, is the fact that it's there, and the actors don't have to bounce off a tennis ball. Yeah, there you go.
Like CGI to me, I think we all are familiar with baseball, or we're baseball fans. CGI to me is kind of like an aluminum bat, and the puppetry is the wooden bat. They both do the same job, and they're both effective, but the wooden bat is the one the fans like, because that's the one that has the most, it has it has the old feel. You hear the crack. It's a little bit easy. You have a little bit more of a decision-making process.
Sure. So that's like turkey dogs versus Vienna hot dogs, Vienna beef hot dogs. They're both hot dogs.
Oh no, turkey hot dogs are strictly for communists.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we can talk The Last Jedi and the prequel stuff until we're blue in the face, but I wanted to switch up a topic, and you guys had mentioned, is Star Wars dead, or do you feel that Star Wars is here to stay? And we're going to talk specifically about the new shows coming up and Ahsoka next month. So who wants to start a little conversation about Ahsoka? Are you guys looking forward to it? Do you guys think that this is going to be another flop? I know Star Wars on the big screen has been kind of a hit or miss thing, but people seem to be excited about Ahsoka. What do you guys think? Let's start with Michael.
So for me, like I got really excited when Ahsoka came to The Mandalorian. Because it was the first ever live action showing of the character. And I thought that was really cool how they were expanding more on her character. Because obviously she's very much a fan favorite from the Clone Wars series.
Right.
And the fact that Ahsoka, the whole premise around, at least to my knowledge, is her tracking down Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I really like that because Thrawn was such a great character, in my opinion. Like he was absolutely just, you hear Thrawn is coming or Thrawn is behind something, it's like, oh no,
You get
like
chilled.
we're in trouble,
Yeah.
you know. Like
I agree because Thrawn is like, especially since he's not Force sensitive. He's
oh yeah,
he's
Right.
just so fearful. He's almost as fearful as Moff Tarkin.
Right.
yeah, absolutely. And
I
he,
put the wrong number.
I don't know. There's a lot of mystery around Thrawn too, because if I remember correctly, Thrawn came from like somewhere outside of the main galaxy, like
Yeah.
beyond the main galaxy of the Star Wars, setting. So it's like, where did he come from? What, like, what are there more like him? Is there going to be? Because I know in the expanded universe that is no longer canon. I know that at one point there were, like aliens that came from outside of the galaxy that came in and like attacked the new Jedi Order and what have you. And
Uzan Vong War, yeah.
yeah. And so I know that happened. And it would be so interesting to see Disney try to do something along those lines. Now, mind you, I don't think Disney's going to really do anything. Like, I don't think they're going to do the Yuzong Vong Wars, simply because they've not done anything else with any of the expanded universe material.
Right. I mean, they're picking stuff from it. They're nitpicking from.
They're
from
inserting.
Yeah.
They're taking certain things and they're inserting. They're not doing the whole thing.
But I think going full fledged on the expanded universe might be problematic for many reasons. One,
absolutely.
Legal stuff, rights stuff, money wise. I think,
continuity.
Continuity. I mean, it's going to confuse the hell out of normies for another reason, but there's a lot of other reasons that they're not going full fledged EU. And obviously, they got rid of the EU for a reason. But
I still don't understand why they got rid of the comic books, though, because the comic books kind of stayed on track with Star Wars as we knew it, and I think it was a bad decision to axe the comic books. From
which are you talking about, like the Dark Horse series?
The Dark Horse series, the stuff we saw from Marvel when Marvel had it for a little bit.
The problem with that is, and a lot of those were actually back a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You could actually open up your newspaper on any given day and open it to the comics section, and there would be a Star Wars comic there. I mean, you could just like a little 3 or 4 frame comic, and it was like Foxtrot or Calvin and Hobbes or anything like that. It was, but you had Star Wars in the newspaper, and
we might have to explain to the chat what a newspaper is.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So the newspaper is something that we had before the internet. That's how we learned of things that were happening in the world.
We would read them on shift at the video store. Now, the video store was...
Quick, explain what Blockbuster is.
We had to pick it up at Radio Shack on the way there.
And then we'd all have lunch at the ground round.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, Vader, we are all getting old. It's too funny. So yeah, I mean, Ahsoka looks interesting. Obviously, there's some other shows that have been announced. But let's see, Skeleton Crew. Obviously, there's a lot we don't know about Skeleton Crew, and I think for me in particular, I think that's the one that I'm more excited about because we don't know a lot about it. And obviously, Jude Law is a big actor, a huge draw for a lot of people. There might be some people that are not really into Star Wars that might tune in because they want to see an actor of that caliber, which I think is fantastic. But I mean, I don't know. The Acolyte has me kind of questioning and
it's gonna kill it.
Kind of iffy about it. What else is out? They just said that the Lando series is not being developed, so that's another one.
We've got the three movies coming out.
right.
High Republic era,
Mandoverse,
Mandoverse, and then
and
post sequel
yeah.
trilogy.
And though I feel that those are so far out into the future that I'm not really trusting any of that at this moment.
You'd be surprised. I think 2025 was projected date for the first one. So it's a long ways out still, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not.
Yeah, and I can see that the Mandoverse probably is going to be, will probably be on track for this first film, because obviously we're knee deep in Mandoverse, and I'm sure that the culmination of this story, wherever it plays out, is probably going to play out on the big screen. So
I think what's going to happen is it's going to splinter, and the Mandoverse, I think, will be successful, and the rest of the stuff, well, with the exception of Skeleton Crew, because no one really knows what it is. So the Skeleton Crew is kind of like an outlier. But I think the Acolyte, I think that's going to fail miserably after I watched Celebration. That was just a horrible display. These people did not know anything about the source material. They were throwing around political buzzwords. The show's creator has gone out of her way to alienate the fans. I have no idea what they're thinking, letting her talk. Like, if I was Bob Iger, I'd be like, we are failing every day. Shut up. I want people to tune in. So I don't think, and like, just the guy from the Acolyte saying that it's all about a perspective and there is no good or evil. The Sith blew up a planet. Like, it doesn't get much more evil than that.
Yeah, that's the thing that has me.
Well, I mean,
that depends on your point of view, because Thanos killed billions of people with a snap, and
he didn't,
and he was trying to do something good.
He just made it to where they never existed.
Right.
He didn't kill them. They didn't die.
Right.
They just stopped existing.
I mean, and with the Rey movie, I'm sorry to cut you off. With the Rey movie, I mean, we've got a director that has, to her credit, a bunch of documentaries.
I think some commercials too,
and an episode of Miss Marvel. So that tells me you really don't care about Lucasfilm, and you're probably just banking on people going to see it because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite rumors.
Hold on a second.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Ubaldo, is it your birthday? Is this your birthday weekend? Is that where you're a great way to spend my rotation around the sun once again? If it is, well, happy birthday, my friend.
Hey.
Happy birthday, man.
That's awesome that you're spending it here with some nerds. All right. So I'm sorry, who was talking?
I was gonna say one of my favorite rumors, and obviously it's very unsubstantiated. It's probably just some Star Wars purist fanboys getting their hopes up. But there was a rumor recently that Disney was so tired of just failing with Star Wars that they were in talks with George Lucas to sell it back to him, to sell the rights back. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it's even remotely true. But I got to thinking about it.
Was he wearing a mask?
Was his name Doomcock, or possibly
Mike Zero?
Mike Zero. Yeah.
No. This was an article I read online. I don't remember exactly where it was that I read it, but I just remember reading it. And no, Mike Zero, like, I used to, like, when The Force Awakens first came out, I was watching his videos all the time. Yeah. And once I saw The Force Awakens, I'm like, okay, so this dude clearly has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He has zero insider information.
And does he ever use that dartboard behind him? I've never seen him.
Hey, Ro, how do you think Kathleen Kennedy celebrated her 50,000th firing at Lucasfilm?
Probably with a cocktail
and a contract extension.
So yeah, that's the funny thing too. I mean, I consider myself to be a reasonably level-headed Star Wars fan, and I crack up at every time people say that Kathleen Kennedy is getting fired again. If she hasn't been fired by now, she's not getting fired. And then when she leaves or retires finally, people will say, she was forced out after how many years of being in power?
Since at
Right.
least
Right,
2012 when Disney bought
Yeah.
Lucasfilm, basically.
I mean,
And then eventually somebody will the words somehow Kathleen Kennedy survived,
yeah.
or somehow Kathleen Kennedy came back. Like those words will be uttered.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I agree. George is never buying back Lucasfilm. He is happily retired. I see him here on the streets of Chicago every so often, and he is just chilling.
and my take on Kathleen Kennedy is that one, she's still earning Disney billions of dollars.
Sure.
She's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
My personal thing on her is kind of like I have conflicts about it because I think she was a great producer, and I don't ever want to say anything bad about her. The way I see it is she's kind of like, one of those like offensive coordinators, and you're like, yes, this guy's getting a shot at head coach, and then it's kind of like, ooh, he should go back to being an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Ambrose with the sports references that Roe doesn't understand. So. But here's, the funny thing about the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing is, just lost my train of thought. I understand the problem that Star Wars in general has had for quite so many years here, between not reading the room correctly with the fandom, the fact that obviously for me the sequel trilogy was kind of a pissing contest between directors. You had JJ do one thing, Rian Johnson do another thing, and then JJ coming back to kind of undo the middle film. And I don't care what you say. If you don't see that, to me, it's painfully obvious that they were trying to undo each other's stuff.
And that's where, to cut it off for a second, that's where Kathleen Kennedy should have stepped in, because
Right,
when George ran it, and he had the different directors doing Jedi and Empire, George made it clear, this is my story, and you're going to do what I want to do.
right.
And they didn't have that this go around.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think Lucasfilm should do is they should at least admit, what, we tried something, maybe it didn't work as best as what we wanted to, but let's get back on track. But I don't think they're going to do that because a big company like that will never admit wrongdoing, failure, failed experiment, whatever you want to call it. But I think I'm really hoping that we will see that pseudo apology by the products that will be coming out, in the future. I hope. And I know a lot of people are like, no, they don't trust Star Wars. They don't trust Lucasfilm anymore. They don't trust Disney. And I get it. It's been kind of a rough ride since the Last Jedi, but
I think I was going to say, I think the direction that it's going, Filoni and Favreau know what they're doing with the Mandoverse. I mean, obviously that is like a property that every Star Wars fan can agree on, that this is the way it needed to be done, kind of thing.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Sure.
And then you've got Ahsoka happening. And the problem with Ahsoka is I think it's going to do great. I am a Star Wars fan. Anything that has the Star Wars label on it, except for Resistance, I'm all for. I love it. I still watch the holiday special around Christmas time. Wow. Yes, I watch the Star Wars holiday special because you know why? It's Star Wars and I love it. But as far as Ahsoka goes, you're still going to have that class of fans that say, it wasn't done right. We don't want Rosario Dawson. We want Ashley Eckstein in there, and that's not the way Ahsoka would have acted. That's not what she would have done. Thrawn is done all wrong, and he can't do it. And then you had her say something about heir to the Empire, and so now people are going to go in watching it saying, "Oh, we're going to get the heir to the Empire," and it's not going to be the heir to the Empire, and people are going to complain about it. And the thing with it is even if they were, let's say for the sake of argument that they make a movie, The Heir to the Empire, even if it's animated, and they go word for word from the book. If they took every word, converted it into a script, and said, here is Heir to the Empire, we're showing it, it's animated because the actors are all dead and everything else, people would still find something to complain about it. They didn't do it right. Oh, his tone was wrong in this, or the inflection was wrong, or the hair color was wrong. Something. That's the problem. People always find something to complain about.
And piggybacking off that, like Dave's 100% correct. What was it, Andor? I forgot what podcast it was. There was a guy complaining and saying that Star Wars didn't have bricks and screws. Like,
look, Star Wars doesn't have underwear. Is it too far-fetched to say they don't have bricks and screws too?
Like, that's your takeaway? Like, it was like, an Andor was, in my opinion, an awesome show. I thought Kenobi was an awesome show.
I loved Kenobi.
Like, I can see why someone would be upset at Kenobi because it was a bait and switch with the way the show was marketed. You thought it was going to be one thing, you got another, but the show was still really good.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Like, you know, I don't understand why people. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's shock. You didn't get what you were asking for, but it was still a good show. Enjoy it. You know,
look, you're not going to please. You're not going to please everybody, especially when everybody has a platform on YouTube or on social media. We've got microphones and cameras in front of our faces. We've got takes, and unfortunately, we're going to say what the takes are. And that's just the way it is. But again, you know, it's like, you know, I've got my opinions. I've got my takes. John Boyega's got his opinions and his takes. But I think at the end of the day, we should really, you know, I'm really excited I'm always excited for more Star Wars until I see it and evaluate it. And I wasn't too crazy about Kenobi. Like 60% of it. I think Book of Boba Fett was trash. For me, Andor was top tier Star Wars. And I wanted to ask you guys, because this is one of the questions I had on one of our previous 5 questions show. What is it that needs to be done in order for Star Wars to survive the next half century? Give it some thought. And then chat, I want you guys to chime in as well. What is the one thing that Star Wars needs to do in order for it to survive into the next half century?
I can go first on this. If
sounds good.
No one else wants to. Okay. I think they need to let don't buckle. Don't say anything about the sequel trilogy. It happened. Okay, it's part of the lore now. We need to just let it go. It wasn't good. It was a miss, but it's part of the lore now. So we just need to. It's there, and someone needs to come out and just say it's not going away, guys. It's there. Okay, we're gonna move forward. Realize they need to, like you said, admit to some kind of mistake being made. I think they need to pare down the writers' room. There's too many writers with too many ideas. I think they need to get 4 or 5 guys in there that know what they're doing. Get rid of that stupid vision board with time travel and dinosaurs on it. And have these guys do it. Tell them, you know what? Make it good. And stay out of it. The studio needs to stay out of it. That's the best thing you could do for any movie. Write the checks, let the writers write, and stay out of it.
There's one thing that you said regarding the fact that we need to accept that the sequel trilogy exists for some of us that are not too crazy about those films. But for a while, there was talk about, changing the timeline similar to what Star Trek has done, and creating 2 divergent timelines where the sequel trilogy never happened and continue from wherever. The device or the plot device of the world between worlds where time can change and all that stuff. What do you guys think about that? Introducing kind of an alternate reality or
a multiverse? A
multiverse.
So I actually know exactly what you're talking about, because this was something I read and I was like, oh, this would be, in my opinion, I thought it would be cool because it feels like for the people who really like the sequel trilogy, they would still be able to enjoy the sequel trilogy without it getting, retconned. But for the people that didn't quite enjoy the sequel trilogy, well, then they would get new content that maybe they would like better, or maybe they wouldn't. Who knows? But it was definitely a better avenue than simply just retconning. And I don't know if it was ever substantiated, if this was ever something they actually talked about.
Yeah,
But
the chat is going
it was
crazy.
yeah.
I love to
But
see that, man.
basically, if I remember correctly, it was like you said, the whole, World Between Worlds or whatever it was called. I never actually saw the episode of Rebels where that happened, but I do know of the concept and what happened.
I'm on my
and
first run through
basically,
Rebels. I haven't gotten to that point yet either.
and so basically, what the theory is because there was like this whole plot hole at the end of Mando season 2 where, when Luke picks up Grogu and takes him off to train him, it's like, well, hold on, in the sequel trilogy, it was stated that Ben Solo was Luke's first ever pupil. And now this is happening and blah, blah, blah. And so the whole theory was that the two timelines were when Ezra went in and saved Ahsoka from Vader, it created a separate timeline where there's one timeline where Ahsoka dies, and then everything leading up to the sequel trilogy happens, and that is the events that we know of now. But then there's a separate timeline where Ezra saves her, and now she is able to interact with Mando and point him in the direction of Luke, and Luke trains Grogu, and now the events of the sequel trilogy happen very differently, because the theory was that the reason why Luke failed Ben so much, or in the way that he did, was that it was his first ever student, and he encountered something that he wasn't prepared to encounter, and he panicked, and it caused a lot of problems. And that's, and so the whole theory was that, okay, well, now he starts with Grogu instead of Ben, and now he's a little more experienced in training and teaching and whatnot. And so when Ben comes along, he reacts better, and Ben doesn't turn to the dark side. And it was a theory that I thought was really well thought out, and I would have loved to have seen it, but unfortunately, I don't think it'll ever happen.
I think the concept is neat, but I think SSW Network he posted it in the comments here, and I'm leaning to him. I don't think it was ever stated in the sequel trilogy that Ben was his first pupil. Ben was a pupil. Solo said,
"Dang it! Now I gotta go rewatch the whole sequel trilogy."
Yeah,
Thanks, guy.
I honestly think that's what it was. Was Ben was never really mentioned as, so that pulls the one screw out that causes the whole theory.
Wait,
Yeah.
there's no screws in Star Wars. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's one,
Next thing you know, we're going to involve bricks. We can't.
The one power coupling.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go with the bulk of the idea in the chat. I think the multiverse in Star Wars is a huge mistake. I think it's a bad idea, for very practical reasons. So one of the biggest reasons for me, one of the things that I thought of is, obviously there are people that really enjoy the sequel trilogy. I think if Disney says to them, you know what, we're going to create an alternate universe for the people that didn't like that reality and go over here, I think that would kind of cement a further divide between fans of that and fans of this. And I think we're already divided as fans. I think we need to work hard to kind of, I don't know, accept that little chapter in our Star Wars collective lives and move forward, and demand from Disney better Star Wars stories and better decisions from the top down. So I think it's a really bad idea to introduce a multiverse in Star Wars.
You're asking for a lot of maturity from the Star Wars fan base here.
Yeah,
not
only that,
from day one, I'm asking for maturity on Star Wars fans, because I think sometimes, you look at a lot of these takes and they're fucking ridiculous.
I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
come on.
Everybody reverts to that like 10-year-old tantrum self whenever they start talking about their opinions on Star Wars. It's like, you know, well, this wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, so I think it's garbage. When it's like,
Yeah, I mean, again, I'd like to consider myself, or I'd like to think of myself as kind of a level-headed Star Wars fan. You know, I mean, we're not 12 years old, bros. We're
yeah,
adult men. Let's
And women, don't forget the women.
and women.
There's a
Absolutely.
slew of Star
Absolutely.
Wars women out there.
And I love it. I love it that it's not just dude bros, you know, hanging out Star Wars now. We got
Yeah.
a lot of wonderful people out there. But yeah, I mean, come on. It's they're just movies. Like what you like. If you don't like it, you know, move on to the next thing. But you know,
Yeah.
as that old meme says, nobody got time for that.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that for so many reasons, a multiverse would be just a terrible idea. For one thing, then the fans that are giving all of us a bad name win.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give them the satisfaction. I'm a petty person. So for that reason, another reason is it was divisive enough, like you said, Ro. Why are we going to create something else for fans to fight over? You can't have something that divisive. And I'm also of the belief that you can't unring a bell. This has been part of the story since 2000 and when did Force Awakens come out? 2015.
2015.
2015. Yeah.
We're approaching 9 years of this being part of the story. Let it go. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't like the sequel trilogy, but you know what? When my daughter takes an interest in Star Wars,
sure, yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna watch them with her, and if she likes them, good for her.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lock her in the closet.
I won't watch it. I won't watch it twice. She can watch it on her own. But if she likes it, good for her. I'm not gonna. You know, you can't unring the bell. It's part of the story. Move on.
Right. And here's the real kick in the shorts for a lot of people, and a lot of the fan base today doesn't really get it. I mean, a lot of us do. There was a bunch of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s that we grew up on Star Wars, and then in 1985, Star Wars just kind of disappeared. It was gone. There was nothing. And we had no internet or anything to argue with each other about, but there was no TV shows, there was no movies, there was no books. There wasn't even any books, not until 91 when Zahn wrote the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Star Wars kind of got fired up again. And then we didn't even see movies in the theaters until 97 when the
special editions came out.
And then 2 years later, we get episode 1. And then 3 years after that, 2002. 3 years after that, we get Attack of the Clones. And then another 3 years after that, we get Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, exactly. The Dark Times. So what I'm looking at here,
Revenge of the Sith is still my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. But that's because I was like 10 when it came out, like 9 or 10 when it came out. So it's like, you know, seeing. I just remember, like, my dad took me to see all of the prequel trilogy movies in the theaters, and it was because, you know, he was born in 72, so he was like, you know, he grew up on Star Wars, the original stuff, right? Yeah. And so he got to see that same look of like awe and amazement in me watching the new stuff as he had when he was a kid watching the original stuff. And that was something that we really bonded over. Talking about, like, you know, the fan base and whatever, I always have to laugh.
I disagree, Kyle. David, sorry. I highly disagree. Yeah. No, I disagree with this comment.
Let's talk about this comment. David says, remember a time when Star Wars fans were divided over the prequel trilogy, and I do. I remember the songs being sung, George Lucas raped my childhood and all that stuff. Now it's golden. I think the same thing will happen with the sequel trilogy. Just give it time to settle.
I disagree with that. On both counts, because there are still people that talk trash about the prequels.
I completely agree with it, because you've got a whole generation of kids that are growing up on the sequel trilogy right now. That's all they know. That's all they've seen. And when they get to be in their 20s, 30s, that they're going to be like, those were great. I remember those from my childhood.
Will they be special the way the original trilogy was special to us? Will they have the same passion to be able to spend their hard-earned money to outfit their rooms surrounded by Star Wars sequel trilogy material like we did? Or is it just going to be a blip on the radar of Star Wars history?
It's going to be a blip, and I'll explain why.
I don't think so, because you still have a whole slew of kids and characters dressing up as Kylo Ren. I still see Captain Phasma's, and Captain Phasma hasn't been in a movie since The Last Jedi, so that's what, 2017. You still see him at Comic-Cons, at Halloween, things like that. Kids are still dressing up. The toys, it's not, the toys aren't just original trilogy; they are sequel trilogy as well. You still see those kids buying the stormtroopers and things like that from the sequel trilogy. So I think
they're on clearance.
But they're still getting it.
They're an Ollie's bargain outlet.
But they're still getting it though. That's the thing. And I think it would surprise you that there is an entire generation of kids that this was exciting for them. Luke grew up watching The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rogue One, and all the Disney stuff on the theater. And for him, that was a special experience because he got to go see it for the first time on the theater. In fact, in 2020, when they released Empire for its 40th, for the 40th anniversary, they released it on the theater. And yeah, you had to go and
thanks for
sit in there,
Crystal.
Yep. Bye, Crystal. But you had to go in there and sit with your mask and everything, but you still got to watch Empire Strikes Back on the theater. And Luke, I remember taking Luke, and he was like, man, this is like the first time I've ever going to get to see this movie on the theater. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I've seen it, I don't even know how many times on the theater, just from special edition, from real ones, special editions, all that other stuff. So I'm just like, man, it's special for him. So
I'm going to disagree with you, and here's why.
Your kids are wrong, damn it.
Your kids are wrong. I'm going to disagree with you just simply because it's not special anymore. There's too much content. It's special to us because of the scarcity.
Right. Yeah.
It's special to us because we know what it was like to not have it for years.
Yeah. So
so it's not special anymore. It's just another piece of content.
Yeah, so we had this conversation, I think, on the show a couple of weeks ago. Ambrose, too much content, and I saw somebody post that Star Wars should have been the 6 movies that George created and then done. Do you guys feel that that there's too much Star Wars out there? Do you guys feel that
I don't think that I think that what that comment was pointing at was that maybe not so much as far as new Star Wars content, but I think everybody at the end of Jedi was kind of done with the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
They were just kind of like, we need, okay.
It was conclusion. It was done.
It was conclusion. It was done. If they pop up in a cameo in the next movies, just so long as that the story is not focused on the Skywalker family. And I think that was the big thing.
I wrote an article about this a couple months ago, and I think, and I'll agree with Dave in a minute on what he said earlier. George Lucas created such a vast universe with so many characters and so many planets and so many civilizations, and he put thought into it, and everything has a backstory. And I think it kind of does a disservice to his creation to just stick to one corner of it. But to agree with Dave, whenever someone does try to leave Tatooine, whenever someone does try something new, something experimental, something that they think is good, like Andor, for example, with screws and bricks, people revolt. So it's like, what do you want? It's like talking to my toddler. It's like, what do you want? A yogurt? Okay, here's a yogurt. No, not that one.
The other one.
The other one. Like, I mean, so it's kind of like a catch-22. Okay, we need to make new material. We made new material. This sucks.
Yeah.
Fire Kathleen Kennedy.
But we have to realize, like, what is it that, okay, so again, I said you can't please everybody at the same time, but like, what is it about these things that people don't like? What is it? What is that factor that that gives them that feeling of I just don't like it? I think a lot of people have trouble vocalizing and kind of distilling the certain qualities of whatever Star Wars it is that you're not liking. Um, they're having trouble kind of quantizing the elements of what they don't like. They couple everything into it's Kathleen Kennedy's BS and I don't like it because of this and I don't like it, but it's not, you know, I don't hear, for the most part, I don't hear a lot of genuine takes of why they don't like it. It's just trash. Well, why is it trash? Because it's woke. Well, why is it woke? Well, because it's trash. And it's like, come on already.
It's a phenomenon. To me, it's a phenomena that is only seen. The only other place you see it is with a sports team.
Phenomena.
Phenomena. It's the only other place you see it is with a sports team. People have invested so much time and energy and money and support into this universe that they have a false sense of ownership over it. And a lot of people get offended when they see something they didn't approve of. And it's like, it's not yours, it's George Lucas's, or well, now it's Disney's. But I mean, you're going to, and they get militant and they get testy, and they have, like I said, a false sense of ownership, and they think it's theirs, and they don't realize that it's not theirs, and they should sit down and just let me enjoy the damn movie.
It's the armchair quarterback thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask this question because this question gets posed a lot. Ambrose, you said a false sense of ownership.
Yeah.
And I know where you're coming from. I'm gonna ask everybody on the panel. I disagree with the notion of a false sense of ownership. I think we've been Star Wars fans for decades. A lot of our backgrounds kind of demonstrate the fact that if you cut us, we bleed Star Wars. There's a reason why we are Star Wars fans. And yes, we do take a certain ownership in the franchise because we have lived, breathed, for a long time. Do you guys feel that there is a sense of responsibility with the creators now of Star Wars to appease fans that have been with the franchise for a really long time? I mean, isn't it our hard-earned money that made Star Wars the juggernaut of media that it is today?
That is a principle that I hold dear to my heart. You want my money, write something good. And I do agree with that notion. When I said false sense of ownership, I'm talking about the people who are irrationally talking about how the sequel trilogy needs to be destroyed. Like, and that's another reason. You don't, like, if you retcon it, that won't be good enough for these people. They want that thing wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, and then that's what, like, people like you, Dave, Michael, normal people, the people in the chat, they're not sitting there foaming at the mouth because Daisy Ridley is getting another shot at being in a movie.
Right.
It's these people that you know, I for lack of a better word, it's these nut jobs that come out and you know, write letters threatening Kathleen Kennedy's life, and do these nutty things that give Star Wars fans a bad name. There was a point when the sequel trilogy was at its peak where people would be like, you like Star Wars? I'd be like, nah, something must have happened around here, and I'm not taking blame for that. So nah, I'm a
one of my favorite comparisons that I've seen when it comes to like fan bases and whatnot is you have the Star Wars fan base, which, you know, up until George Lucas sold it to Disney, you know, George Lucas would come out with the movies and say, this is what happened, this is the information I'm giving you, and the Star Wars fans would like argue about it, be like, no, that's not true, that's not. It's like the creator is literally telling you this is what happens, this is, you know, and people would argue about it. And then you have the fandom of Lord of the Rings, and you get Peter Jackson involved with making the trilogy, and he literally has nothing, like he's literally just telling you this story that has been around for, you know,
since
gotta be
early
almost 100
1900s.
years now. Like,
Almost, yeah.
yeah, it's like getting close to 100 years now. And I cannot think of a single person who can say like, and the movies go so far from the original content. Like, there's so many things that Peter Jackson either added or removed from the movies that just, like Tom Bombadil, right? And I'm not trying to go off on a whole Lord of the Rings thing, but it's funny because there's so many things that were changed with that somebody who was not the original creator of the content made, and collectively it's loved now, like even 20 years later after the original 3 movies were released, and it's aged so well. And I can't think of a single person who is a fan of Lord of the Rings who looks at the movies and goes, well, I don't like that they did this, and I don't like that they did that. And, well, I'm not saying there are people who will nitpick at it, but you still enjoy the movies, correct?
No, I don't. Fellowship of the Ring was the only one.
I mean, I think.
Okay, well, hey, everybody's entitled to their own their own opinion.
But
for the most part, the Lord of the Rings fan base is a much, much more united fan base. Whereas Star Wars, when the actual creator of the content said, "Hey, this is what happens next in the story," and the fans go, "No, that's not what that's not my Star Wars." It's like,
that's not what I wanted.
Exactly, it's not your Star Wars.
Expanding on that point, if the Hobbit trilogy was made and it was in the Star Wars universe, that theater would burn to the ground.
Yeah.
I wish Andrew was still in the chat. He is the biggest Lord of the Rings fan I know, and he can give his 2 cents as far as the fandom goes. But he might have slipped out.
All I will say about the Lord of the Rings, and I got a whole tirade on this, but all I will say is, watching the movies, I wondered if Peter Jackson had ever read the books, and I looked at it and said, well, he got the names right.
Too funny.
Yeah, I mean,
for me.
Well, and like, I wasn't one of those who read the books growing up. I didn't, like, because the movies came out, I think the first movie came out in 2001, 2002, something like that.
Yeah,
like very early 2000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was like 6, 7 years old. So obviously I wasn't reading Fellowship of the Ring. I wasn't reading Tolkien at that age.
I was reading Tolkien in 3rd grade. 3rd friggin' grade.
I read The Hobbit. Here's Andrew with his little tongue-in-cheek comment. Lord of the Rings fans united? So I guess fandom is fandom no matter what franchise you're looking at, because I also belong in a little bit of the Star Trek franchise, and there's a lot of hemming and hawing over there too. So
Next Generation or original series.
But going back to Rose's question, they're entitled to our money? Yes. And that has been a fundamental problem with Disney as a whole. They do not care about whoever's going to see their movies. They think they can print money, and it's showing with the box office projections right now.
They should have been able to print money. I mean, they had Star Wars, for heaven's sakes.
And it's showing with the box office projections right now. Like, Disney's in a tailspin. And they don't... The fans do speak up, and even the even-keeled fans speak up and say, hey, it would be great if you guys did this. I think it would be awesome if you did that. And Disney's like, yeah, okay, we're going to talk about the patriarchy in The Acolyte and how Sith aren't evil, even though Anakin Skywalker killed a room full of kids. We'll do that. Let's do that, guys. Whatever the fans do the opposite. Do the opposite.
The thing that gets me about and everybody says The Last Jedi is the worst one of them all, but I look at it and say that movie made $1.3 billion with a B dollars.
It could have doubled. That number could have been doubled.
It could have been doubled.
Each movie made less and less money, and I know that's the normal thing.
But even still, somebody was going to watch it, and even the fans that didn't like it went back and watched it a second, third, and fourth time.
But as a result of that, Solo bombed terribly.
And I loved Solo. I thought Solo was great.
Solo was one of the most underrated ones, but it
Absolutely.
I think here's the thing. Here's the problem is when we were growing up and even into the prequel eras, we had to wait 3 years between movies. And then here's Disney puking up one movie a year. 2015 Force Awakens, 2016 Rogue One, 2017 Last Jedi, early 2018. I mean, 5 months after The Last Jedi, we get Solo, and then we got to wait 18 months to 2019 to get The Rise of Skywalker. So I think that's what they didn't give us enough time to digest each one of these movies, and I think that was one of the bigger problems of the whole thing.
One, I can't stand Rian Johnson. The guy makes.
Take a drink. He said it.
I can't stand the guy who directed Knives Out. He writes one.
That movie is banned in my household, by the way.
He writes one.
Why?
Really? That Knives Out was fantastic.
Oh, come
Both
on.
of them were good. I loved them.
Oh
both.
yeah.
Oh, we lost John.
I'm back. No, come on. No. He writes one semi-successful half mystery, and people think he's the next Hitchcock. Go to bed.
Oh, I don't think he's a great. Like, I think the movie itself is great. I love because for me anyway, most mystery movies like that, for the most part, it's like, oh, I know exactly who did it in like the first half hour of the movie.
Like in the Glass Onion?
Glass Onion was a lot more transparent. But the first one, I was like, oh, I know who did it. And then it's like, oh, no, that's not at all what happened. This is what actually happened. I was like, oh, dang, my expectations were subverted. And it's like, okay, well, now I know what happened. And it's like, well, no, actually, and they were subverted again. I personally really like that in a mystery because it keeps you guessing. You never really know until the end of the movie who done it. And that's what I really enjoyed about it.
I don't know. I still can't get past the fact that he literally ripped off the end of Escape from L.A. in The Last Jedi.
I don't even remember what happened in The Last
Jedi.
There's a scene comparison on YouTube, and it's the same exact. Like Snake Plissken comes out of the flames, Luke Skywalker comes out of the flames. Snake Plissken's a hologram, Luke Skywalker's a hologram, and it syncs up perfectly. It's like he watched Escape from L.A. the night before and then wrote the ending, and everyone was like, wow, this is really good. Where'd you get this? He's like, I don't know. I just thought about it.
I'm going to have to go look that up because...
I'll text it to you. I have it on my phone.
Yeah. Put it in the group chat. I want to see it too.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Yeah. Wow. It's so hilarious when nerds get together. Time flies. We've been talking about stuff for over an hour. Big thanks to our chat for sticking with us. What else do we got on the roster? Any final thoughts before we say goodnight?
If you're not dealing with any, or not dealing, if you're not watching any of Scarif's other fine programming tonight, I will be on in about 45 minutes, the Geek News Gauntlet on our YouTube channel, Geek News Now Official. So come check us out for more geeky shenanigans. If you are hanging out and watching Scarif podcasts, you can catch us on the rerun. It will still be on Geek News Now Official. So watch us now or watch us later, but it's guaranteed to be a good time. Final thoughts on the matter. I think we can all agree that we love Star Wars. Yes. I think just like the rest of the Star Wars fandom, we're slightly divided on the sequel trilogy, and that's fine.
But we can be civil about it. That's the big thing.
I personally hate them, and the only time I'm not civil about it is when Cam Fisher is on Cantina Happy Hour because it's hilarious to watch him get mad. But I think it's divided and it's divisive at best, and we just have to accept it as part of the lore.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I will say Star Wars is Star Wars. I will still give every Star Wars movie a chance.
Yep.
And I just hope that the course can correct itself.
Sure. I would agree. All right. It's giveaway time, everybody.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to put up the phone number, and I want you guys in the chat to, you guys can do it too. Everybody give a call and leave a message. Leave your answer to this quick question here. I recently watched last night the original Indiana Jones film, a little movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wonderful, wonderful film. And my question is related to Raiders of the Lost Ark. You guys ready in the chat? I'm giving away this.
I'm muting it in case I shouted out by accident.
Razor Crest
Good idea.
plastic model. Make sure that you leave us a voicemail with your answer to the question. It's a 2-part question. I will mail this out to you. Also with a couple of stickers, some Scuttlebutt stickers. Nice little swag pack. I love giving stuff away. All right. So my question: who was Indiana Jones? Oh, hold on a second. I'll put the phone number after I ask this question. All right. Who was Indiana Jones's teacher as mentioned in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and what city was Indy a student in? Call the Scarif Scuttlebutt hotline with your answer. Give us a call at 773-234-8659. And I will pick a random.
I had a problem with the city. I had to sit there and go through the
line.
I'm pretty sure I have the teacher. I do not have the city.
All right. Well, give us a call.
I have neither.
Scuttlebutt hotline 773-234-8659, and I will go ahead and pick out a random winner for this. But I will also pick out 2 or 3 people to win some backup prizes, which includes a little Red 5 Network swag pack of stickers of some of our shows on the Red 5 Network. And you can find a lot of our shows at bio.link/red5. That's the number 5 right there, baby. All right. So give us your answer, and make sure that you also leave don't leave your address on the voicemail. Just direct message me your address. So if you do win, then I have some place to send this. So excellent. All right, guys. One last time, let's hear everybody's little elevator pitch on what it is that you guys do, where people can find you and say hello there. Let's go with Ambrose.
I'm a writer for Geek News Now. I also guest on some of their podcasts. I'll be on MCU Mondays this Monday with the man below me. At 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about the season finale of Secret Invasion.
Not yet. We got.
Episode 5 of Secret Invasion. I'm a week ahead of myself. I just wrote a review on the Barbie movie. If you want to check that out at www.geeknewsnow.net. And we are always welcome to hear your takes on Twitter. So follow us at GNN_home. Oh, one more thing. The new YouTube channel. For anyone watching this that is a follower of the old YouTube channel, we are not uploading content to that channel anymore. So follow us at youtube.com/@GeekNewsNowOfficial.
Very nice. And then David, how about you?
Yeah, like John said, Monday nights I host MCU Mondays, which is we just talk about MCU stuff. Thursday nights on the same channel, we do the GNN Cantina Happy Hour, like it says right here. But that's our Star Wars show. We're going through Mando season 1. Jailbreak, I think, is the next one. I think we just did the I don't even remember. I think the Jailbreak was the next one. So go check us out. That's Thursday nights, Monday nights, and Thursday nights, both of them at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. Geek News Now official.
Excellent. And yeah, Nicole reminded me, if you guys are lovers of Stranger Things, we have a Stranger Things has happened or have happened. What's the correct tense there? Our YouTube channel, Stranger Things has happened or have happened. One of those two. Go check out the guys from that channel talking about Stranger Things. I forgot what season they're on, but go check them out.
Still haven't watched it. I'm sorry. Apologize.
No problem. No problem. And Michael, what about you? Where can people say hello there?
Well, I manage the Geek News Now. Well, I say manage. I post on the Geek News Now TikTok. So if you guys are ever wondering where you can see, these two guys more often, you can always check out the TikTok channel where I will be posting, what days and what times they will be live at geek_news_now.
Excellent. Excellent. And if you guys listen to the Scarif podcast this week, I am recording with somebody new, and we're going to be talking about the original Planet of the Apes from the 1960s, back in the day. Nobody was born then. But the original Planet of the Apes, we're going to do a deep dive discussion on Planet of the Apes. Should be a really fun episode. That drops on Thursday. I'm not sure if we're going to do another Scarif Live next Saturday, but we are going to be doing Scarif Live deep dives and breakdowns of the Ahsoka series once that starts. We have a nice panel of people that are joining me. We got our first two shows booked up, but if anybody is interested in talking Ahsoka, please DM me and we'll make it happen. We'll add you to the roster.
When is this? I'm sorry.
What was that?
Show starts August 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. So yeah, absolutely. Find me and the rest of the Red 5 Network at bio.link/Red5, as I mentioned, and we are the Red 5 Network. Proud founding members, the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Until next time, this is Ro, David Ambrose, and Michael. See you guys next time. And that is the Scuttlebutt. Hey-o!